Good evening, everyone. My name is Jose Benavides, and I'm creating this video as a reflection of an incident that occurred while I was the incident commander on site at our facility. Okay, this incident dealt with a chlorine tank emergency. Okay, and again, this is I have typed this out, and I would be reading off of what my description is. Okay, so as opening, this incident happened on August 18th, 2022 at approximately 12:30 p.m. Of course, I served as the incident commander during this critical emergency at our wastewater treatment facility. A chlorine tank sprang a leak with approximately 400 workers on site, including 40 family members. What I want to share with you today is how I led this crisis and what I learned about effective leadership. Okay. All right. So immediate priorities. Upon hearing about the leak, I needed to analyze the case. It was around noontime and the day was very hot and dry. All right. Keep in mind, very hot and dry. The heat would increase chlorine's volatility, thereby increasing the risk of a gas leak. Midday was when most people are on site and most equipment is in use, which complicated the evacuation. The first thing I did was check the facility's emergency alert system to verify its work status. Okay, all the workers had to be informed promptly, and time was very sensitive. I did not wish to spread any rumors or any misunderstandings about the response procedures. Second, I assigned assembly points based on wind direction at the time, which were located southwest of the facility, all right, to ensure people are not in the path of the gas dispersion. Third, I notified our on-site emergency response team. Yes, we had an emergency response team, ERT. After they were dispatched, I then notified our nearest fire department before escalating the situation. I was able to provide certain data: the tank size, approximate leak rate, the number of personnel. This enabled first responders to deploy resources safely as I mediated internal operations. I ordered that all water treatment intake process be stopped immediately to avoid any contamination of our supply lines through backflow. This act required a fully dressed employee in full PPE gear. Lucky for us, he is one of our most seasoned operators and knew exactly what to do, and he knew his job duties to the T. Lastly, I organized our hazmat containment crew using chemical collection bags and absorbents to create a second containment area. The time of day mattered enormously, okay? A leak at 12:30 a.m. would have been different. Fewer people would have been on site. We would have had fewer resources. The hot weather prevented me from being deliberate. Okay? I had minutes, not hours. I needed to make my leadership skills stand firm with a foundation of preparation and training. All right, references and guidances to the response. Okay, I did not improvise at all. Okay, I was acting within frames of our accepted structures to begin with. I based my information on OSHA's instructions for chemical emergencies, namely the hierarchy of controls. Okay, engineering controls, solutions, administrative controls, personal protective equipment. Such hierarchy dictated the order of actions. Second, I used our hazard communication plan and the SDS for chlorine. I had just recently reviewed, like I do every year, so the details of how chlorine behaved and what to do in an emergency were still fresh in my memory. Third, I used the incident command system framework, which gave the organization structure and an effective chain of command. This avoided confusion by ensuring that each responder was aware of their role and supervision. Fourth, I communicated with our health and safety director via radio. Okay. At the same time, while I was making tactical decisions, he was monitoring regulatory reporting and liaison with state environmental agencies. This combination of rapid reaction and legal action was necessary. Lastly, I used our emergency response plan, which was updated just last year following a tabletop actions simulating a similar situation. The fact that it was prepared meant I was not going to be improvising a playbook. I was following what we had thought about and perfected. These references were abstract background knowledge. They were specific, accessible documents and framework I have studied, internalized, and could apply decisively under pressure. Team leadership that we had. Okay. My operations supervisor became my tactical lead for evacuation and to obtain personnel count of each employee on site. I empowered her with a clear objective to clear every person to the assembly point safely and in a timely fashion, and of course, as soon as possible. I didn't micromanage her movements. Under high stress, she made sound decisions about evacuation routes based on wind direction and proximity. The leadership skill delegated was based on trust. The strategic advisor and regulatory liaison were on safety and health director. I discussed with him the more general implications and regulatory notifications. This was particularly decision making. I don't know everything, and I relied on his experience. Our most senior maintenance technician, Marcus, volunteered to examine the damage to the tanks and to seek the isolate valves, which was the most dangerous job. I described the urgency, detailed the risk, provided the appropriate PPE, and a clear absorption policy in case of the aggravation of the conditions. He was knowledgeable in his decision to join. It is servant leadership with effective risk communication. Okay. The media relations were handled by our communications officer, Sarah. I informed her about the information that could be published and what should be kept secret. I provided with her with clear guardrails and left her to judgment, answering questions on the fly. This imposed limits on any autonomy. Administrative staff helped reunite members on site. This was an emotional job. I accepted the emotional the truth, and remained operational. This is what most call carrying with responsibility. I was consistent as a leader with all team members, setting clear goals, explaining the rationale of each goal, trusting the experts, and ensuring psychological safety. People do their best even during a crisis if they comprehend the mission and are trusted to deliver it. Media engagement. The media arrived within minutes. My initial intake might have been to avoid them, but I recognized that media relations was in itself a leadership responsibility. I established a transparent staging area outside the secure perimeter. This conveyed that we had nothing to hide, even as we maintained operational security. I gave a formal briefing 2 hours and 4 hours after the event, providing factual information rather than speculation. Our communications officer gave briefings between briefings to prevent the information vacuum from being filled with rumors. When I had questions that I could not answer, I replied simply, I do not have the information yet, but this is when you will get it. This built credibility. The inherent leadership qualities were sincerity and responsibility. I used language such as when I decided, prioritize, and order. I did not conceal myself with passivity such as personal responsibility. In fact, made people stronger believers. I also personalized information and discussed the 400 workers, the 40 family members, and the importance of midday timing. Respect is also given to leaders who are responsible, personal, and specific in decision making. All right, community leadership. This incident occurred in a town with a population of only 3,500 people, where our facility is a major employer. There's no containing information in a small town. Within hours, everyone would know. Community trust is our water safety was at stake. I prioritize transparency and community reassurance as part of our leadership responsibility. I made the evacuation noticeable yet non-demonstrative, a frightened reaction and an indicator of loss of control. An organized, systematic response conveys effectiveness. I recognize the emotional fact of terrified family members on site. When I met with the leadership and first responders, I told them, we have families here. You are to be steady, composed, one who allows them. This put emotional intelligence into focus as a leadership concern. I did ensure that the subject of the reunification was treated with dignity. The family members were not clustered like issues. They found their loved ones with respect and compassion, thanks to the staff. This was a message concerning our values. In a small town, some employees serve as narrative carriers in society. Had they felt reputed, it would have told a carelessness. I, on the contrary, want to employees personally acknowledging their fear, telling that I cared about their individual and their safety was very important to me. The principle behind it was as follows. In small communities, you simply handle incidents. You steward relationships. Being incident commander meant I was responsible for controlling the hazards. However, I was also responsible for voicing the community. In the following days, I collaborated with our leadership to create a community information session during which we described the incident, answered questions, and outlined preventive measures. That's stewardship. Key learnings. Okay, this incident made me realize that everything needs preparation. All the choices I took were based on a training and a review of our emergency response plan. That training made me able to think clearly under pressure. Second, trust is developed during peaceful periods and needed in times of crisis. The relationships that I had made with my team paid off on August 18th. My team was very decisive since they believed in my leadership. Third, weaknesses include transparency and one's own accountability. Their strength, I was fully accountable for my decisions. This boosted confidence in the people. Fourth, crisis management requires emotional intelligence. The sense of fear needed to stay operational brought individuals to operate at their full potential. Fifth, small town leadership needs to practice relationships and institutional truth, as well as problem solving. How am I applying these learnings? I am now deliberate regarding consistent training. As a victim witness advocate in my current work, I have been able to advocate for strengthening training on trauma-informed response. I've also invested in building psychological safety within my team. A deliberate act I have pursued by organizing forums where people can be heard. I am less secretive about how I justify my arguments, not only my choices, and I know what it means to be a leader. It is to serve people, not to solve the problem. In closing, the most challenging leadership scenario I have ever had to deal with was the chlorine tank emergency, which proved all the theories I was studying in the topic of organizational leadership. Crisis leadership is effective leadership that integrates critical thinking, planning, trust, openness, and decision-making centered on human beings. I am thankful to be in a position to lead at the time and thankful for the lessons I have taught me up to today and how I view leadership. Thank you.